it's an important part of my story. But what I do today is really to be that light, that person who sees children and reminds their parents there's no illness, there's no problem. The symptoms and the behaviors are just really, really valuable communication from their body. And we're all wired very, very differently. And it's hard to understand the communication sometimes, especially if we're not aware that it's meaningful.
So very welcome today to our channel, New Earth Vibration and Soul Alignment, with my wonderful guest. She is a therapist and she loves to be as well an entrepreneur. And she runs a podcast with a very nice title. The podcast has the title, The Happy Nervous System. And she's very passionate about creating companies that make mental health more exciting and accessible. So a very special topic. And everybody, welcome to Kendra. Hi, Kendra. How are you doing?
Hi, Beata. So good. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm happy to see you again.
So happy to see you. I'm so happy to be here and talk some more.
Yeah, let's talk some more because you have a special profession. And Kendra, you are founder and director of Child Therapy Center in Los Angeles. So this is very special, and this has fascinated me when we talk together and you mention it. So what is your story? Why you founded this center, and what was your way of creating this?
So I was not a natural entrepreneur when I was younger and even in college. Um, there was a lot of therapists and psychologists in my family, so I was actually very against going into mental health. I kind of wanted to rebel against it. So I was a late bloomer. It took me some time, and then I do like to say that the specialty of working with children really found me, and I'll get more into the story of how it evolved. But an important part of my story is childhood. So I'll take you back. I was one of three girls. I was a middle child, and I was on the shyer side, but I was a sponge. I really took in everyone's energy around me and the world around me. And because of that, I got pretty bad stomach ache. So I was very sensitive just on a physical level. And my parents were quite worried about the stomach aches. They took me to doctors, and I even had a colonoscopy at way too young of an age because they were trying to understand what was going wrong, to see if I had any GI diseases. So nothing really helped. A few doctors and pediatricians, they did their best, but they put me on exclusion diets and tried different things, completely missing the mark that it was actually a stress response and a healthy response, actually. But no one could speak the language and support my parents in really understanding what was going on. So unfortunately, these stomach aches kind of went through adulthood, and it was manageable but uncomfortable. And a few other doctors diagnosed me with irritable bowel syndrome, which is pretty common. But I also think it's just a label to try to make sense of things. So that's an important part of my story, because I believe if I had a therapist who saw me as capable and not ill and just fine the way I was, and was able to see my symptoms as communication from my body and not a problem, it would have changed my life profoundly. And I don't regret anything because I'm so happy and proud of myself for where I'm at. And it's an important part of my story. But what I do today is really to be that light, that person who sees children and reminds their parents there's no illness, there's no problem. The symptoms and the behaviors are just really, really valuable communication from their body. And we're all wired very, very differently. And it's hard to understand the communication sometimes, especially if we're not aware that it's meaningful. So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
It's so wonderful because we always don't take care about our bodies. And I think when we grow up, we don't know something, how to communicate, and it's far away that we see it like a communication. So this is great. So the work really found you. So how did you proceed then?
So I was in private practice myself for about 8 years before opening the center, and then the pandemic hit. And that's when I started receiving so many calls every day, every week. And so it felt like a universe, on a platter was saying, there's a need. There is not a center in Los Angeles full of thousands of therapists that truly specialize in children. And so I had a vision of a beautiful center with a relaxing parent lounge, just welcoming parents in, full of beautiful playrooms. And I created it. It's been a lot of work, a long journey, but it's really exciting to go from a vision to reality, and we continue to grow. So I'm very, very lucky.
That's wonderful. So have you always been a visionary? So or did that develop during the years you had suffering as well?
It developed. It
Mhm.
developed. So yeah, it wasn't the fire kind of was lit inside me after I'd say my late 20s, but the catalyst for change really was a women's mastermind group I was a part of. And for the first time, my belief system was really expanded, and I was able to see how big of an impact I can make, and that it was safe to take up room and safe to really go for the vision. So since then, I feel like my brain has just been so excited about creating and really providing value, leading with value for families and children.
So you are really making a huge impact on the world and for our planet, because when you are helping to cure some things which is not ingrained in the children, but it's a reaction to the environment. So this has a ripple effect backwards to the parents as well. How
Yeah.
is it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's so rewarding. I only hire therapists who love children, so we all just get so excited about this work because we really truly believe it to be life-changing and like changing the future of humanity. Because if we all go back to our childhood, there were things that were missed. Of course, our parents do the best with what they have. But just imagining that you had someone teach you about your body and your nervous system and normalized, sometimes we have weird sensations, and that's just so normal and healthy. And I'm going to help you befriend your body.
Mm.
Change so much. So it's very exciting when we think just what the work is doing. But yes, it's absolutely a ripple effect with parents. So
That's
we like to say, use the phrase in mental health, a parallel process.
Mhm.
So what we do with the children and what we teach parents about their child, such as they're not broken,
Mhm.
they're capable. We have to figure out their unique individual differences because every single child is built so different. Parents start to absorb those messages and they're like, oh, what are my differences? I'm not broken. And they start to do the work indirectly, and it's really beautiful.
Mhm. So, from which age on are the children in your center? So, if 3 or older, so what is the average?
We actually see as young as 2.
Wow.
Yes, and we do see a few adults as well. And everyone laughs. They're like, "What? How do you see 2 and 3-year-olds?" And of course, it's not talk therapy. I think there's a big misconception that all child therapy, we ask questions and they tell us about their dreams, but children don't have that verbal capacity yet. So oftentimes what we're doing with the 2 and 3-year-olds is we're bringing the parents into the room and we're helping parents learn how to play. And we call it co-regulate with their child. And basically it's just a beautiful dance that we support, but it needs to be going back and forth because play is incredibly healing for children and it's their primary form of communication. And so a lot of adults don't know how to play, and it could be for many reasons, but a lot of the parents we see weren't played with themselves. And so we just help their body relax into it, and the child's behaviors usually drastically improve.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really funny, so-called funny, so that we maybe expect when we ask a children what is wrong, that the child can communicate what is wrong. Even we as adults sometimes do not know how to communicate and to express emotions, isn't it?
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It really is. Our expectations for kids are so high. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
It's funny. So, and it's it's amazing. So I was never into this kind of topic which you are just giving us. So how long do you have the children? I know this is individually, but you have an average after a couple of years now. So when
Mhm.
you see so-called results, this is as well an adult thing now to have results, but change. Let's talk about change.
Yeah, yeah. This is important, and almost every parent asks us the same questions when they call in. It's because it's a time and financial commitment. It's not. We realize that it's not easily accessible for everybody. Now, what I say is, I wish I had a magic wand and could make the situation better in 1 or 2 months, and that the kid could graduate. But it's important to remember, of course, that every child is different. Some kids stay with us for a few months and they graduate, they really take in the material. And other kids, it's longer term because there's a lot of intergenerational trauma. There's just many layers that are tricky. So every child is different. But what we look at and what we want to achieve for healing is a few things. So of course we want the change to be observable. Sometimes play therapy can feel so vague, like what are you doing in there? Like what goals do we have? So it's really important to us to set goals with the family so that we actually achieve them. But also change can be more subtle because we're helping the child understand their own physiology. So we really believe in like body autonomy and learning your parts and understanding what anxiety is just on a physical level. It's not just in our head, like anxiety is very physical. Um, and then the second piece is supporting that parent-child relationship. So that should be pretty observable because the chaos or the stress at home should be coming down. There should be more joyful connection between everyone. And also the parent's nervous system should be more balanced, which allows for that co-regulation, that in-between relationship to improve as well.
Mhm. So you just mentioned generational trauma or generational things which we all have in our DNA. And as far as I have learned, so we have up to 14 generations of information stored in our cells as information. So do you talk about this topic as well with the parents? Because for some parents, it must be a weird thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny to hear reactions to spirituality. Some people are very, very upset or triggered or defensive about it. And so, of course, as trained mental health professionals, we have to respect what feels good to them and what doesn't. But usually for the families that are very against it, end up opening up to it because it starts to creep in. It's so profound and so important. So I personally believe that the filter of spirituality is greatly missing from child and developmental mental health. Thankfully, it's more prominent in adult mental health, and more amazing books and people are speaking about it, which is very exciting. But it plays such an important role in children and, of course, the relationship between their parents and the parents' parents and the grandparents, and for many decades. So we are very excited to start to really bring a whole specialty into our centers, especially as we grow, of spiritual psychology for children as just another way to help their bodies release what isn't theirs and also make sense of what they might be carrying, right, through their bodies, but through the generations, because it absolutely plays a role.
Mm-hmm. So I always have a question when I work, for example, with my coaching clients, if they, for example, stick to a behavior, which sometimes is really a habit or something like that. So I always ask, because you just said it, who does it belong to?
Yes.
And I think I have only worked with 15 years old sometimes in my workshops. And when I say, who does it belong to? Is it yours? Is it somebody else? It just raises up and says, oh, that's not mine. So what kind of experience do you have with such sentence, for example, or questions?
It's one of my favorite questions because and I'm going to put this out there. I think especially as women, everything's our fault or ours to fix. And it's crazy making because a lot of the time it's not even ours. It's an energy absorbed. So I love that question. Now, I think there's two parts to this. One is spiritual, of course, energy. Everything's energy. But the other part is explaining this interaction to parents using science. So we do see a lot of doctors and people who really respond well to studies and science, and when we put things like more black and white.
Mm.
And what we know is that a child does not have the ability to fully self-regulate until the adolescent years, if that. It's really until our early 20s where we really learn the tools to be in our body and to regulate. Before that, we're dependent and we sync up with the parents and the caretakers in our life. So a lot of, we see couples going through divorce or contemplating separation, but they put on a face for their children, right? They saying everything's okay and pretending it is, but they're suffering with anxiety on the inside, not sleeping, not taking care of themselves. And their kids are greatly struggling. And it's confusing to the parents because they're doing all the right things. But what's missing is that kids sync up energy wise, or we say their nervous system quite literally depends on yours for survival and will match you. And it's not that you always need to be regulated. That's not life. It's not about being perfect. But I find that this is a huge missing piece in so many parenting books, and a lot of parenting advice is really making sure your own energy is clean.
Yeah. So when you just talk about separation and stuff like that, what's all going on, or hate and trust between the parents and everything else. So what is your observation? I, from my point of view, think that if you give children too early in childcare, they take as well a lot of energy into his system, which doesn't belong to it. So what would you say? Would it be better than to have the children longer in between the family, or what is your experience?
Yes, I love this. I love this one. And I want to share about a topic that we teach almost all of our families. And I'm very passionate about teaching everybody that I train. And that is called a body budget or a body battery. And this is from the work of Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett. So I want to definitely give her credit. She's an amazing neuroscientist. But basically, we assume, and it's easy to assume, that we all start at the same starting line when we're born, with a body and a nervous system and a sensory system. But the truth is, that line is very different for everybody. And some souls, for whatever reason, their line is pretty far back, meaning they need more support than other children, other individuals to be a part of society and feel normal. So this idea of a body budget is that our body every single day has a certain capacity, certain amount of energy to use to regulate all of our systems, hunger, fullness, connection, ability to concentrate, to learn, to laugh, all the things. And some kids wake up with a very low body budget. Others are pretty well regulated, and they can actually handle quite a bit of stress or their budget being withdrawn. So we can think of it like money, right? So ideally, we want to wake up with a full bank account, a full budget each day. But obviously, that's not how life is. We can get sick. We can get a bad night of sleep. Trauma, what's going on in the world, all these things impact our body budget. But for the children who wake up with a small bank account, they need way more deposits to really feel regulated in their body. So while some kids can go to daycare on the earlier side and can stay in these all-day programs and be okay with positive, robust mental health, other kids can hardly tolerate 2 hours at a daycare center, and they just completely go into a stress response. So it's very important to remember that every child has different needs because they are just wired so differently. So it's important in our assessment, we make sure to ask about sleep and eating and what are all the components of their budget, and we try to guess like how big their budget is that morning, and that kind of determines how much stress that they can take on in the day, because school is stress, daycare is a stressor. It's a positive one, it should be, but it's not for all children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you said it should be. It's not it's not always. So because it depends as well which children are there and who is the caretaker and stuff like that. So there are as well energy connections, and so it's not easy because the young children with 2 or sometimes with at the age of 1, they are yeah, I just want to say they are put there. It's very early because they take everything into their system. They can't choose whether it's good or not for themselves. So they take over things in addition to the ancestral trauma or generational trauma. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a question just raises up, because I just had as well a conversation with an adult from her childhood on. She saw things. So she saw angels or figures or animals or whatever, which were only energetically there. So do you have as well children who are talking about this, and the adults think they are crazy and whatever? So have you experienced this as well?
Yeah, this one really melts my heart. I just love kids so much, and their love, like their natural state is love and creativity and imagination and play. It's all these incredible values I think as adults we try to find again and tap into. So it's really heartbreaking when a child is just in that beautiful state and it's labeled as an illness or a problem or something to be fixed. So we definitely see that. And our job is to help remove the lens. If we think of glasses, the parents are seeing it through the glasses of a problem. We try to give them new glasses of what is good about this, what is different about it, what is it bringing up inside of you. So we really try to, in a loving way, help parents view it differently. Of course, if it's a problem and the voices are on the darker side of, asking them to do harmful things, that's a different topic. But what we do is really try to support parents and schools and teachers to support these visions and these dreamers and support the beauty of this, instead of try to get them back on track to learning. But it's an uphill battle, I will say, even in Los Angeles. Our school systems are doing their best, but it's so usually not supportive of imagination.
Yeah, because it's a different level. So we have levels here. So we have the material level, but we have the energetic level, and then we have the higher level, for example, where really images are there or energies are there, which for some people are seeable. And so the question is, are your therapists as well trained to work with the children to communicate with this kind of so-called images? How do you choose your therapists?
The matching process is actually very important. So what I found, and when I started the center, was that when you would call into a big center, you were just matched with somebody without a lot of thought. But we actually have like a matchmaker, a client coordinator who takes in all details and tries to match the child and the family with the best fitting therapist based on personality and preference and values. So we really, really prioritize that. But I'm very excited. One of our therapists is a energy and Reiki specialist and healer, and she just has brought so much magic to the center. So it's a priority to build out the spiritual side of spiritual psychology for children. It's underdeveloped for sure, because I want to make sure that we have plenty of space for all the families who really value spirituality to be able to be matched with the therapist who also practices the techniques. But yeah, it's underdeveloped for sure.
Yeah, wonderful. So it's so wonderful that you are there, and I think you are a pioneer in this. I don't know in Germany or in another country at the moment such child centers. So you should teach more people in more countries about that. Is it as well a vision of you?
It's funny because at each step of the way, my vision gets bigger and bigger. At first, it was just to stay in Los Angeles and have a few centers. And then I go to Antarctica and meet some incredible people. And then they're like, across the US. I'm like, of course. So, yes, you just expanded my vision even more. But let's do it. Let's do all over the world. Honestly, wherever children are, I'm so excited to reach them. And yeah, sky's the limit.
That's wonderful. So whatever I can support, I will. Maybe our wonderful conversation do as well its thing. So we will see.
Very exciting.
So great, so great. So that you are jumped into this your own vision and that you created it. So you have been bold as well to do it out of nothing, I think, isn't it? Or did you have anybody who supports you financially or whatever?
No.
Nope.
It's been me, myself, and I, and there's pros and cons to that, of course, but I'm grateful for all the mistakes and all the learnings because it's taught me what I don't want, and it's taught me, what really will help the center thrive. So
you are a role model as well, again, for women who want to become entrepreneurs, just to do it. Yeah, just to be passionate about a topic or something, and then just to do it. And there is no failure, there is only feedback.
exactly. Exactly. And I'm such a strong believer that if you're given a vision or an idea that lights your soul up, the world and the universe will support you in getting there. It's so scary to not know how it will happen. I don't know how a lot of, things happen, but you absolutely will be supported. I don't think there's any mistakes in the visions that we're given.
Yeah, great. So before we end our wonderful conversation, I have two more questions to you, Kendra. So you just mentioned a little bit, but I ask specifically, what do you wish for the world? And what is your wish for yourself?
Beautiful. My wish for the world would be for everyone to know on a soul cellular level that their body is not broken, that their body works really well, and to find the tools to be able to listen to the messages that it gives you. That is my hope.
Wonderful.
And for myself, my hope would be to just continue to step into this space of taking up space. I don't recognize myself. Like, I was a shy, introverted child who struggled. I can't believe my life. Like, I can't believe I am where I am today. It hasn't always been easy, but my hope, my prayer for myself is that I just continue to open and to shine my light.
Wonderful. So wonderful. I thank you so much, Kendra, that you have been here with me today, and for your work and for your passion and for the children of the world. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey and tell others about this channel. And please subscribe.